A very good day to you and welcome to Herman Manyora's YouTube channel this evening of Saba Saba Day. My name is Jedel Cabrera here with Herman Manyora for usual political conversations that are very simple, truthful and biased. He puts them across in a hard-hitting way. How are you doing, sir?
Good. Stronger than you. The cold is managing you and namzee yuko steady.
I mean, you guys,
chuma ya zamani.
You know, you guys ate good things growing up.
Correct.
Sisi ni waserelak.
Yeah, look at Richard, he's shaking.
He's shaking.
Yes.
But how are you doing?
I'm okay.
You're okay.
Yeah.
You know, we were hoping these demonstrations will not go to where they were today, but people are still eating tear gas, as they put in it. So you want to cooler tear gas, and the police officers making people ensuring people don't get into CBD. Raila Odinga says it's time now we show the world that this regime must go, and people are angry, they are hungry, and it's time for this Rutos administration to go home. First of all, was this a success protest?
I've not monitored well. I was in a short meeting, I think most of the day. After we recorded, I went into a meeting. I've just come out of them. I really don't have no idea. Yeah.
Don't have any idea, but
not of any. I know things have been happening. I know there are businesses who are not. Most of them were closed in town. I know there were issues in some parts of the country, and yeah.
You know, the big question, you know, we look at this protest and we tell ourselves it is high time President Ruto's regime try to make sure there are not demonstrations, because when you look at the cost of living and businesses going down, we don't want to get to this place where we are now. And from where I sit, I'm just wondering, is it really time for Ruto's administration to just come out, whether it's in a presser or something, to tell Kenyans that, look, the situation in the country is bad. We hope Raila will give us time. Let's dialogue. But when you look at the bipartisan talks, they came to an end. What is happening in our country currently? What is happening?
You know, our country is in the hands of people who don't seem to understand the responsibility they carry. Yeah, that's all I can say.
You don't know?
No, they don't. In my humble estimation, they don't understand the responsibility.
With the numbers they won with, if we go with those numbers, they went with at least 50 plus 1% or 51% or 52%. Does this mean 52% of Kenyans gave this responsibility to the wrong people? Is this the case?
It's not. I'm not saying they're the wrong people. You're putting words in my mind.
Because when you say they don't understand, this means
they do not understand the responsibility they have. That's what I'm trying to say. When you are in charge of a country, it is a huge responsibility. And the last thing you want to do is to be reckless. You know, these big countries like America, the USSR, China, you want to look at life, look at it from that perspective. Suppose you had a reckless US president. You know, he can, at the touch of a button, he can destroy the world. Not a country or two. The world as we know it could come to an end. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of awareness I'm talking about. To be aware that to be president of America, you carry huge responsibility. And everything you do must be well thought out and with moderation. And you don't want to be provoked into doing something silly as the president of the USSR, of China. Because you could end the world as it is. You have so much power. So bring it down to scale and come to a poor, that third world like Kenya. As small and as useless a country is, the president of the country still has huge responsibilities on his hands.
You know, people asked him, you're going abroad. This is right now in Comoros, I believe. And there are demonstrations in this country. And it is Saba Saba Day. Raila said that Saba Saba of our lifetime. You told me you have ulcers. Simply because of thinking about this country. What does this mean for
These are not people who seem
future?
to... I don't think the people in charge understand what it means to be in charge of a country.
What
you saw the other Saturday, or I think it's Saturday, there was a tragedy in Londiani. 52 people lost their lives. The minister goes there, he's in charge of roads. He's addressing people on top of a car as if it's a rally. And people are still searching for bodies, but so far 52 confirmed dead. He goes into a government helicopter, lands somewhere in Elgeyo Marakwet, and the whole government is there. Homecoming of somebody. They are celebrating. In other countries, the country will have come to a standstill. The president of a country sometimes ends his journeys. The president of France had to cancel his overseas engagement, outside engagement, because of the riots in France. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he actually did that.
Yeah, but you people, you have normalized even very bad things. So like 52 people dying, it's nothing. Government will be there, ministers, government, president, everybody. They are whining and dining. Kurarua mbuzi.
After 52 people died.
And the minister is just from the site.
You know, I'd hate
So things like this happening, the government ought to be very alert. Because things can get out of control.
You know, you've said we don't have a country from our previous shows.
Yeah.
We used
There
to
was
have
a country.
But then I'd hate to ask this, then does this mean we don't have a president? Is that the situation?
No, whatever is left of the country we had has a president. All I'm asking the president and his government is to know the responsibility bestowed upon them is huge. Any misstep. You know, I want to repeat this until maybe one day Kenyans will understand what I'm saying. It is not difficult to lose your country. Yes, it's not difficult. You can wake up one day and the country as you know it is not there. And people, especially rich people and leaders, they don't seem to understand that. You can wake up one day and you can't go back to your home in Karen. Ile ulitoka nayo ndio yako.
I'm thinking now about the titles we've had, from Ruto Watch Out to Why Saba Saba is Dangerous. Everyone has gone home now. Things seem to be peaceful. Is Gachagua and Ruto right that Raila will always have his demonstrations and people will always go home at the end of the day?
This is what you think. What I'm saying is, the fact that children were playing with the danger somewhere and none of them was hurt doesn't mean you should allow it to happen tomorrow. It's never advisable to play with danger. Danger is something you keep away. Yeah, you keep it away. Danger is something
you keep away. Hatari.
You come to your house, find, you know that container we used to carry? Petrol. You know, Shell, this established petrol station like Shell. If you go and just with a container plastic, because your car is stuck somewhere, you need petrol, they will not give you. There's that jerrycan.
Metallic.
The British gallon.
Yeah.
The metallic. That's the only one they can use to give you, or you buy it is there. And a little expensive. So you have one in the house and it still has petrol. Then you find children are playing with it and next to the fireplace. Because it didn't explode and the house is safe and the children are safe. So let them do it tomorrow. That's just how stupid you can be if you think these demonstrations can go on tomorrow and another day. If you look at anywhere where the masses have taken the law into their hands and engaged in all manner of anarchy, looting and what have you, or even destabilizing a government, or even taking over government altogether, or making the president run away from the country, it just starts like this. Yeah. Women start protesting. They go to buy things in Sudan. They find the price is just 3 times the price of yesterday. And women just begin protesting in Khartoum. Women just start protesting. And before you know what's happening, Bashir is not in power. So it's, if you are to laugh at to conclude that because there were demonstrations on Saba Saba Day and people went home without looting, without what, so Raila can go on tomorrow, then you also don't understand situations.
Is Raila the problem though when it comes to protests in this country, and that's why things don't change, at least for the past decade or so? Because you've always said Raila aneka breaks, you know, and he lets people go home. He disappears from the crowds. If we had a different leader, does this mean things could have been different? Is this the case, and therefore Kenya would have been better at least?
First of all, to correct you, it is not true that the agitation, demonstrations, the people going in the trenches has produced nothing. That's, in fact,
I'm saying for the past decade or so.
Yeah,
remember, he did something during Moi's era.
You know, even in the last 1 decade, if you look at the changes even to our electoral laws to make the elections much better than they have ever been before, it is because of Raila's agitation. And in fact, I dare say, people in power today are riding on Raila's back. Because if Raila had not pushed for the changes, even just in the elections alone, I don't think in Ruto, with Uhuru determined not to give him, if it was what it was like before, then it would have been much easier for Uhuru to manage Ruto. So everybody is eating from Raila's back, and therefore to say the agitation of the past 10 years has brought nothing, it's not true. It has achieved a lot. Raila acts with moderation. I think it is a mark of statesmanship. You could call it cowardice if you wish. So it is true, if maybe there was another person other than Raila, perhaps this country will not be what it is. I want to imagine a situation where in 2007 when Raila won, and I want to say it openly, among those who believe that Raila won that election. You can have what you believe yourself.
Okay.
The way I saw William Ruto fighting on the side of Raila and the Mother Karua on the side of Kibaki, let's just assume for a moment it was William Ruto's victory which was taken. My friend, this country will not be the same. Yeah, you remember in 2017, during the resist movement, people like Indi were quite radical and Miguna. And they could very easily have replaced Raila. And the country would not have been the same. So Raila acts with moderation. But I was telling Raila the other day, I think yesterday or something, I was telling him, you see, the really danger now is not in you telling people to do this or do that. The really danger is people will ignore you. Yeah, people will ignore Raila.
You've told him?
Yeah. And if I get Ruto, there are things I'll also tell him. Because I'm passionate about my country. I love this country. I want a future for my children and my grandchildren. And I will tell him. You see, people will ignore you. Soon, you'll tell people to go home and they'll tell you, go, you'll get us here. You are saying Wednesday, utatupata hapa. That will be the end of the country.
What, from where you sit, what would make things change in this country? You say Raila acts in moderation. You say if it was Ruto's election in 2007, things would probably have been different. What do we need for things to change now? Because we are looking at Raila, for those people complaining of Ruto's failure in running government, and we're saying, well, lead us to that point. What do we need for things to change?
I personally believe we just need to sit down as people and talk.
And what to talk
That's what I mean.
I've always been asking you, what is there to talk about? When you are,
no,
when the likes of Kabanda was telling you about him, saying, look, when it comes to talks, you can't make anything from Ruto because, look, he knows he's running government. He says, look, he's deceiving or making too many promises. What is there to talk about?
No, you know, what I'm saying is for Ruto and Raila and the rest of these people to realize this is the only country we have. And then, once you are a leader, there's a lot in your hands. The future of this country is in Ruto's hands. That's all he needs to know. He doesn't need to know anything else. Just to know that the future of this country, the future of children in this country, the future of our grandchildren and his grandchildren is basically in his hands. That's all Ruto needs to do, just to know that. Once he knows that, he'll put aside unnecessary pride and bravado. And just sit down with his brothers and sisters and say, this is our country and I'm the president. Elections have their own games, dirty, clean and everything, but I'm the president. So what is it we can do without discussing my presidency? Bring everything on the table. Anything and everything except my presidency.
You know, you remind me of what Uhuru Kenyatta went through when he kicked the likes of Murkomen out, Susan Kihika out. Everyone is saying he's a betrayer. Is this what Ruto needs to expect once he decides to put things out openly and saying the future is for us, despite the hardliners?
No, you need. You see, when a country collapses, as indeed many countries and kingdoms have collapsed, okay, that's what history is about. People say history is nothing but a record of man's folly. If you look at the folly that we call history, they never say it was, Kenya collapsed during the time of Murkomen and Gachagua. They just say it was during the time of Ruto. History will never record anything else. It just say the people of Kenya voted for William Samoei Ruto in 2022. And in 2 years' time, the country had collapsed and gone to the dogs. That's what history will record. And then they continue to show the mishaps and missteps what he should have seen. That's what history does. Why didn't he see it was very easy to sit down with Raila Odinga and talk about the country? Why didn't he see people who rejected the Finance Act? Why didn't he see this budget was bringing a burden? That's what history will record. It's as simple as that.
No, I was looking at these masses in Kamkunji, Raila telling them we're going to march through here and we're going to Nairobi CBD, and then they didn't. Does this mean people
They didn't. Here they did.
Not as many as we expected them to, and then there was tear gas being lobbied. Does this mean people are not angry enough? Does this mean people are not pressed enough by the economic situation? Therefore, Ruto should not be concerned as much as people would expect him to be. Because if people were, they would have been in the CBD despite the tear gas, despite the police.
You know, I've told you this. What has happened today is not something you want to play around with. In fact, this is bigger than what has been expressed in other countries that has finally led to bigger things. Yes.
How so?
This is big. You know, Nairobi is a big town. Do you know that?
Yeah.
You know the economy of Nairobi, if it stops in a day, you are talking of huge losses running into billions of shillings perhaps. So, are you not aware that for the most part of today, not much was taking place in Nairobi? You can't dismiss that as nothing. Yeah. Let me tell you this. If you have 100 boys and girls with the placards in Nairobi, you know that's enough to shake the world and say Nairobi is on fire. Do you know that? You look at it, if you are there yourself, then you look at how it is captured on international media. You say, who did the same place I was? So you want to dismiss the thousands of people that turned up today? That is big. It's not a small matter.
What should, if someone from Ruto's side tells him, look, we're waiting for these boys to come into CBD, or at least try to march to State House so that we can at least call Raila Odinga and see that he has people. If that is the conversation happening in State House, what would you tell them?
That's like saying, let's drown fast before we know this water is deep.
Yeah.
That'd be stupid. That's very foolish. Then let's drown. After we drown, then people know this water was deep. That's not what you do. Let me tell you this, my friend. And it's for free. Including anybody who thinks they are clever. And Napoleon should have told them something. That between this, which you think is normal, is correct, is noble, and anarchy, there is just a thin line. You think it is people think normal, order, kawaida is here, and anarchy is in Namibia. That's very stupid. There's just but one step from order to anarchy. So
it doesn't have to get there.
So people are they are thick. They are playing with the danger which they don't understand. Let me tell you this. 25 to 50,000 people in the CBD, the police cannot manage them. Just 25,000 people.
Yeah.
They will not manage them. And you know what? Getting 200, 300,000 people into Nairobi is not even anything.
So
it's just, you see, if you looked at the lead up to Kamkunji, something stood out very clearly. You could not have failed to see. Did you see Raila whipping up the people to go to Kamkunji? Don't you see it was low-key?
Yes. Actually, not that much. Not
Something must tell you there's something. And that's Raila for you. But if he decided to come out from last weekend, normally the way they will go around, have rallies in Nairobi, go to attend a church service preceding maandamano. If he whipped people around Nairobi, do you think this town will be manageable today? So anybody who thinks they want to test the depth of the water by seeing people drown, they are welcome.
So maybe my last question, we're looking at anarchy and we're looking at Ruto and Raila. Who's going to make this country or these people go into anarchy or get to a situation of anarchy? Is it Ruto really, or is it Raila? Because you're saying Raila is acting in moderation.
It must be the bigger brother. Raila acts with a lot of moderation. There are people who don't seem to understand Raila. Me, I understand Raila sufficient to know, like this week, for example, he didn't want this thing to get out of control. All he needed to have done is moved in Nairobi from Monday to today. And this thing would have been so huge. So he acts in moderation. For reasons he knows. It could be cowardice, you can call it if you wish. Maybe he's a coward, like Miguna has said.
Yes.
Maybe, there are many things people say. But all I know, he didn't push this thing to a point where it would have produced what some people would have perhaps required. But if you to answer your question, who between Raila and Ruto would be responsible for anarchy when it comes? I'm very careful. I'm not using the word when it comes, because it will come. We are beckoning it. I repeat what I said sometimes back in an interview with you, I think, that at times like this, as Churchill said, it's not a question of who is right and who is wrong, of who we can blame. No. We must, by this time, go beyond that. But if we were to look at where we could apportion blame, it will have to be Ruto. For the simple reason that between two people, whenever there's a conflict, there's always a bigger person. It is up to the bigger person to bend, to extend his hand.
Bigger not meaning age, but you're meaning level of power.
Yeah. So it is the president who can bring all these things to a stop. Because, let's say you say, okay, if Raila says history is going to blame me when this country burns, what options does he have? The best option for him to go to Bondo.
Yeah.
Would that end the problem in this country? Would that end the hunger? Would that bring the anger to an end? The answer is no. It will complicate the situation, because like I've always said, anytime there is a rebellion somewhere, an upheaval somewhere, I'm looking for English, this English is a difficult word.
Yeah.
And there's no leadership, and I've always given the example of places like Central African Republic. It is always very difficult to manage. There is a central command you come to, like Raila, who can tell people, we shall meet on Wednesday. Supposing there was nobody today. Supposing people just were mad and they went to Kamkunji, and maybe Raila had been arrested like 1990, and then people went, nevertheless. The amount of looting that will be going on in this town will be, by now many people would have died.
Yeah.
So you need some central command, some captain. So if Raila were to give up and go home, it won't end the trouble. In fact, it will make the situation worse. So it's only Ruto who has the power to bring all this to an end by being the bigger brother.
So if you have another protest, we have another demonstration, you
Yes.
say, Ruto, you are not doing your job well.
Yes. He must just be the bigger brother. He's the president of the country. He loses nothing by being the bigger brother.
All right.
By saying, okay, let's come and talk about our country, but there are limits.
Okay.
This is the red line. Na kwenda huko tunaenda kuongea mambo yote, lakini ya president wachana naye.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in into this political conversation on the 7th day of July, Saba Saba of our lifetime. Until we do talk again, I hope you are safe wherever you are. Have yourself a lovely, lovely weekend.